My name is Tom Chilton, and I'm the game director for World of Warcraft. Other than those two, I would say PlanetSide. Now, granted, it's not really a role-playing game. It's a massively multiplayer online shooter. But I played a lot of PlanetSide, and I'm looking forward to PlanetSide too. I would definitely say there were influences. PlanetSide had very broad-scale, like global player versus player combat. Some of that factored into our design for the Wintergrasp zone back in the Wrath of the Lich King. So there are always little ways that games can inspire and influence each other. I play all sorts of games. I've also, for example, I've played all through Skyrim as a different RPG. I like games like Civilization, so I played a lot of Civilization 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all sorts of different games. Gran Turismo. At times that can be frustrating, although I guess you kind of get into the rhythm with the game that you're playing, and you get used to, if it's a game where you have to manually save, you kind of get used to doing that, hit F5, you know, and before you do something that's dangerous or whatever. But you know, it's interesting because every game has its own sort of experience, and it all depends on how that experience comes together as a package. I guess I can confirm that, in that I've probably been the person who has I guess watched over PvP more than any other single person on the team. Although ultimately it's a team effort. Anything that we do, there are a lot of designers and artists and programmers and producers that have always contributed to the PvP in terms of, you know, playtesting, suggestions, character class development, all kinds of stuff. So I don't think it's fair for any single person to say this person is PvP. Well, yes and no. I would say no in that I feel like we can always have better, you know, PvP balance. We can always, you know, I don't feel that we've ever really satisfied the desire to have large-scale world PvP, for example, other than, you know, at times by accident, like when we had South Shore versus Terran Mill. We sort of had it accidentally for a brief period of time, but even that ultimately wasn't very satisfying for a very long period of time. So I think that there are ways in which we can always be doing a lot better than we are. I would like for us to be able to create battlegrounds at a faster pace than we have before. But yes, in that I feel like for a massively multiplayer RPG, we've had the most satisfying PvP experience. I think that, you know, particularly when you consider that that's not the focus of what World of Warcraft is. There are a couple things that play into that. One would be that you know, we've introduced 2 new battlegrounds that have completely new styles of play, so it's fresh new things for players to do. I think the new talent system will also play into PvP better than the old talent system did. For example, in arenas now, with the new talent system, you're able to change your talents and your glyphs at the beginning of the match. So you'll know what character classes your opponents are, and you'll be able to make some changes to your talents. You have a couple minutes to do that, right? So you know, and we're trying to make sure the UI is very accommodating to do it very quickly, so that, you know, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing it. And I think it's the kind of thing that will become more and more important over the course of the expansion, where at first, when, you know, as people are kind of learning all the new matchups and all that sort of stuff, people won't change their talents a lot because they're just going to be trying to focus on oh god, how do we play our class well? But as they kind of master their classes and their team compositions and their opponents, I think then those subtleties of being able to change those talents will come into play a lot more. Yeah, I think that I could see us evolving toward that direction with World of Warcraft arenas. I think that we do want to give players more freedom to be able to do different things. Originally, we chose the team approach because we felt that like there was potentially going to be something really cool and interesting about having teams, kind of like there are teams with professional sports. But I think the realities of an MMO being a social game, I think require players to have a little bit more freedom than that. The team approach was also convenient from a matchmaking standpoint because we could matchmake a team against a team, and it's simpler than matchmaking, you know, any combination of players against some other like variable combination of players. But our matchmaking has gotten to the point where we're much better at that, and I guess our system is able to handle the matchmaking part of it much more elegantly. It's just a matter of time. There are a lot of game system changes, so it would definitely take a lot of UI for the user interface time to change all the UIs to support it, and a lot of time would go into it. So. The click to move feature. We have a user interface feature where you can click on the ground to move your character.
Yeah.
Right? Really didn't want to put that in the game, but at the time we were being told that in the Asian market that you could not be a successful game unless you could click to move. And we felt like, you know, we don't think that's really true. We feel like, you know, World of Warcraft is inherently built to be, you know, WASD control, and that players will accept that. But we were told, nope, you cannot be successful in Asia unless you're click to move. And so we kind of grudgingly put in click to move, and then it turns out they don't really use it anyways. Definitely. I definitely think that the way our quest system was designed, you know, back before we launched the game in 2004, is not very conducive to allowing players to freely come together and kind of join each other at any point in the quest line. I definitely feel like that's a flaw to the quest system that we have, and I could see us evolving to a point where both through UI and also through gameplay mechanics that we make it easier for players to get together. It's definitely a goal for us. The trick is we don't want to at the same time fundamentally change the nature of what the quest experience is for World of Warcraft. So we have to be careful about how we go about doing that. Ultimately, we're a level-based game, and you know the way our quest chains work, sometimes they're linear and sometimes they're not. But I do think we could do a better job of it, at the very least, presenting that. It's just we don't want to make the UI so complicated that the first time somebody starts playing through the quest that they don't know what they're looking at. Well, I certainly do work on other projects simultaneously, although the vast majority of my time goes into World of Warcraft. I've worked on the Titan project since its inception, 6 years ago or so. I also contributed to Diablo 3, things like that. So, there's a lot of ways that the different development teams cross over, and a lot of the other guys kind of contribute to World of Warcraft also. I feel like they're most likely to be two different and coexisting games that have different audiences and different fan bases. So I think that World of Warcraft will continue to go forward for a long time still. It's always hard to predict for sure, but if I had to answer right now, that would be my answer.